All right.
Great. Well, welcome to the fourth session, the facilitator training. So today is going to be similar to the third session, and just two different things. First of all, you can ask for the intensity of any disruptions, and including to 0, if you just want to practice the empathy circle. So that was feedback that we got. And so when it's your turn to facilitate, you can do that. And also you might want to say, well, I have a problem with this particular disruption or that particular disruption. Those are options. And of course you can talk about what's ever on your mind. We're going to do some personal intros. Then we'll go into the breakout for a circle intro practice into the small rooms. And then we'll come back here, and then we'll go into our facilitation practice. So I'll start with the introductions, just a brief, how are you, where, what's happening. And I'll go around my screen, and I'll start with Lou.
So I'm Lou. I'm in Northern California in the US, and I'm feeling kind of stretched. And I'm excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to this. I really care about all of you. This happens to me in every class. I get to know the people from listening to them and working with them, and so I'm like so happy to see your faces, and I really care about all of you. And so I'm excited to be here, and I'm also feeling a bit stretched. I'm in the middle of a big controversy in my town, and it's kind of so I'm in it, in terms of conflict. So, and I'm here.
Aoife?
Hi, I'm Aoife in Northwest Ireland, and I'm feeling a little bit kind of sick. I had something unusual yesterday, so a bit migrainey. But other than that, I'm very, very happy and all is well.
Oh, that's nice. Good. Brian?
Everyone, I'm in Ottawa, Canada, and doing well. I just updated my LinkedIn profile, so it's pretty sweet. You should check it out.
Okay, great. Great to have you, Brian. Dean?
Hi, I'm Dean in Plymouth. I'm relieved to see the people back that I ragged the other day. I'm glad they got the will to succeed, and I'm looking forward. I don't want to look back because there's dark days backwards, so right forward.
Great to have you, Dean. Pavel?
I'm Pavel, and I'm in Malta. I feel excited and pumped up for the last session.
Great. Max?
Hey, I'm Max, Germany. A bit tired, just got off work, but excited and looking forward to the session.
Great, thanks, Max. Sam?
My name is Sam. I live in New Jersey, and I am looking forward to today's session. I'm starting to gear up to start my own empathy circles, and really looking forward to just getting some more practice.
Great.
Maybe I could just mention, Sam, we're getting the computer noise, so I think you're not using the microphone of your thing.
No, what it is that for some reason my microphone, I have to open I figured it out. So.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, great. Katrina?
I've had a very hectic week. I've had a lot of things that I've had to do on time. I met with my MP this week. I've been like high pressure, and I've been slightly panicking, but achieving all the things that I needed to do. So feeling fairly confident and very excited because XR just had a big win in Bristol on air quality.
Oh, great.
So really kind of feeling, like there's lots going on, but it's all good.
Good. Oh, good. Thanks. Gregory?
Yes, I'm in northern New Mexico, USA, and feeling very kind of stressed right now. I'm the problems of the privileged. I've got people coming to dig up the floor for plumbing, and we're really worried about the virus. So we both have pre-existing, kind of pulmonary deals. Right. So everybody comes, everybody starts out with a mask on, but I've seen it, they take them off after a while because they are uncomfortable. So we're worried about that. Like how, should we just go away, leave the house empty for 48 hours after they leave? I don't know. I'm stressing about that.
Okay. And Anish.
Hi, I'm Anish calling in from India. I'm in physical discomfort. I've been unwell for about 2 days now, and yeah, I'm really excited to be here though, and I couldn't have missed it. So happy to see their faces.
Thanks. Great to have you. Okay, Edwin.
I'm feeling pretty excited. It feels really good to be here with a group of committed, people working on empathy and empathy circles. So it's just a great feeling. Excited about developing the training and really feel there's momentum going. So pretty happy.
Yeah, and I'm Bill. I'm here in Northern California. I'm pretty excited. I'm working on a project in introducing empathy circles into schools. I won't go into it now, but I may call on you from time to time, and we'll let you know what's going on. So the next step will be just to practice how to do the empathy circle explanation. And so we'll break into small groups, I don't know, 2 or 3, and then, Sam, yes.
So today, will we have the ability to then record in our breakout rooms so that we can track, like, if anybody had good ideas for how to introduce it that we can remember and take note of?
So did you record or unrecord, you meant?
Record.
Record.
Like, because when we were in our other breakout rooms, like several of us liked some of the things other people were saying and wanted to remember them, but we didn't have the ability to record because it said the host needed to give us permission for that. So
I'm putting it in. I'm just going through getting everybody record permission. So if you want to, in your group, you can decide if you want to record, and somebody should be able to have the permissions to record.
Okay, and I see Pavel's hand.
If we record the session ourselves, how can we save it afterwards?
You can, when you record, you can say save to, it lets you, does everybody see the record button now below? You should, when you say record, you should be able to click the record and it'll say save to computer or save to cloud. So if you save to the computer, it saves it. When you close, it converts it to an MP4 file. And if you save to the cloud, I'm not quite sure where, if it's to your account or to my account.
I would think it's your account because you, this is your room.
So, yeah.
And that might be a smarter thing to do. That way you don't have to collect them from everyone.
Yeah, if you record on your own computer, as soon as you leave the meeting, it'll pop up a window that says it's converting the meeting to a recording, and it'll open a file on it'll show you where the file gets saved. But I just tried clicking the record button and good.
I've been going through. Hopefully it should work now.
Okay, and just don't do what I did. So sometimes I turned off my computer after the session and I forgot, and then it won't record. It won't save it on your computer. Yeah, so you just leave it open and then you come back when it says it's converted. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we go in?
Are you wanting 3 or 4 people to?
3s.
3s, yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah, just for the circle explanation, then we'll come back.
Okay. Sorry.
And you'll have about 5 minutes each.
Yeah. So in 15 minutes, we'll come back here and do the breakouts.
Okay. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. And how long? 15 minutes, you're saying? Okay, so this one is being recorded already. So.
Okay.
So we each have about 5. See me definitely have a watch for 15 minutes. Let me get this stopwatch so I know. Stopwatch, 1 second. I wish they would sort of write the times in the chat. Let's see, it's 15:00. Okay, 15 minutes. Okay, I can actually model it again too. So we're all 3 take part. Okay, so welcome to our Empathy Circle. I'd like to explain how we do the process. I had sent out a link to a 1-page description if I take part in an Empathy Circle, as well as a 9-minute and a 25-minute video on how to kind of in more in-depth. So hopefully you had a chance to watch that video and see that handout so you're sort of prepared for this. But we'll go through quickly just how to take part in an empathy circle. So the first step is we have 4 to perhaps 5 people in a circle, and one person will be the speaker, and one person will be the active listeners, and the others will be the silent listeners. To begin with, the active listener will select who they're going to speak to, and then they share on the topic that's at hand. And our topic today is what's been your experience with listening in your life? Or you can talk about anything that you would like, whatever's on your mind, so whatever's alive for you. And then you share an idea or two, and then you want to pause, give time for the listener to reflect back their understanding of what you said, and then you check, did they understand what you were saying to your satisfaction? Or if they didn't quite get it, then you can say it again, perhaps in other words. And then share that again, and then they'll give a reflection. The idea is for you to really feel heard to your satisfaction. If they did understand what you said, you feel satisfied, you can say a bit more, say an idea or two, and then pause again, let them reflect back, and we'll have 5-minute turns, and I'll hold up a sign that says 5 minutes when we're done, and then you want to sort of wrap up what you're saying and get sort of the final reflection, and then the listener becomes the active speaker, or becomes the speaker, and they select who they're going to speak to, and again they share, get a reflection, share some more, and we go around for the time allotted, which is going to be an hour and a half. As the listener, you're just wanting to reflect back your understanding of what the speaker had said, and not add questions or your own comments to it. And so that's just the basics. Just share in your own words what it is that the speaker has said. And then I always forget something. I've done it so many times. I always forget something. So, but the main thing is in this process, as a listener, sometimes the speaker will say quite a bit, and then it's like, you're thinking, I'm never going to remember all this. You can ask for a pause. You can say, can you just pause for a second and let me just reflect back my understanding. So that's the one time you can sort of interrupt. So as the silent listeners, you're just sitting and waiting for your turn to come around, and eventually it will. So that's sort of the basics. And when we go into the circle, you see that it'll pick it up fairly quickly. You might feel some anxiety about, am I going to do this right? There's no right or wrong. You'll get comfortable with it. You can just learn by observation. So is everybody ready? Okay, let's go. So that's it. Who wants to go?
I'll give it a go.
Okay.
All right. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining in this Empathy Circle process. Hopefully you had a chance to look at some of the documents that I sent over ahead of time about how to participate in an Empathy Circle and what it is and how it works, but I'm going to just review it all for you here before we begin. So basically, an empathy circle is a structured way of having a conversation, speaking and listening to each other so that everybody feels fully heard and understood. And I feel it's a really great tool to courageously discuss difficult topics where there might be differences in perspectives or experiences. And what this process does is it really slows down the conversation to ensure that there aren't any assumptions or misinterpretations of what anyone is saying. It can feel really awkward and unnatural at first, but if you stick with it, I hope you'll start to see the benefits of it. So basically, the basic structure is that someone starts off as a speaker, and the speaker has an allotted time to kind of share an idea, a thought, a personal experience or feeling, something like that. So usually about 5 minutes, we'll start 3 to 5 minutes. As a facilitator, I would keep the time for that. So the speaker would begin to just start sharing what's on their mind about the topic. And then the speaker has to first pick somebody to listen, be the active listener. So there's a couple of different roles everybody's going to be in. So the active listener's job is to, as the speaker is speaking, to kind of note what their understanding is of what the speaker has said and periodically reflect that back to the speaker. Then the speaker can say, oh, you know, that's not really what I meant. This is what I meant. You can try saying it different words, or, but basically the goal is for the speaker to be heard and understood to their satisfaction, and for the listener to really get what it was that the speaker was trying to say. So we're trying to foster that understanding between people. So once the speaker has felt fully heard, they can say something like, thank you, I feel heard, or perhaps the time has run out and you just sort of finish the idea that you had. And then the person who was the active listener, who was doing the reflection, will now become the new speaker. And then they pick a different person who hasn't maybe had a chance to listen yet, and they will begin speaking to that person who's the new active listener, and they will continue that process of speaking and reflecting and speaking and reflecting for the 5-minute time period. So it just sort of goes around the circle like that. The goal is for everybody to have a chance to be to speak and to be heard and to listen. When you're not the speaker or the active listener, you're the silent listener. So you're just sort of witnessing what everybody is saying, and you may have thoughts and reactions come up for you, but know that you'll have your opportunity to speak. I always recommend people keep like a journal or something they can jot down ideas or things that you have that you want them to respond to, so you don't forget. So yeah, this, like I said, it can be very awkward and slow and, difficult at first. So my role as a facilitator is you might see me sometimes kind of, interrupt to make sure everybody's following the guidelines, or to just remind everybody of what those guidelines are, because we can so easily slip back into our old ways of conversing with each other. So really, you're not, when you're the active listener, for example, you want to try to avoid, saying that you agree or disagree with somebody's saying, adding your own thoughts or judgments into it. Like, you're not responding to what they're saying, you're just simply reflecting back what you think they are saying. And then when you have a chance to speak, that's when you can respond to what the speaker has said, like you would in a normal conversation. So it's a little bit awkward at first, but I'll be here to guide everybody, and don't worry about getting it wrong. We're all going to learn from this and build our skills at being empathic and really fully hearing and listening to each other, so that we can have these difficult conversations and feel fully heard. So any questions before we begin? All right, who would like to start first?
Should we go to Katrina next? Just want to go next, then we'll do a little debrief afterwards.
Okay. Starting off by saying welcome to everyone, and also thank you for volunteering to come along to this empathy circle. You should have received the 1-page description and the 9-minute video and the 25-minute video that I've sent to you prior to the meeting. But if you haven't, I'm going to just briefly go through how this works. So we will be about an hour and a half in the process. And the beginning will choose a speaker. The speaker will normally, the facilitator starts the process, and I'm be taking the role of the facilitator, obviously. So the speaker will talk about anything that's on their mind, or a topic that we've decided at the beginning of the meeting. And they'll speak for up to 5 minutes, and the facilitator will be keeping the time, so they don't have to worry about how long they're speaking for. But it's a good idea for them to pause every now and then to let the person who's listening reflect back what they've heard. So the active listener's role is to reflect back what they've heard the speaker saying, without judging or analysing or kind of getting involved in a conversation about what they've said. So it's just like mirroring what you heard. And if you didn't actually understand or you lost the thread, it's okay to ask for the speaker to repeat. And it's really important in the empathy circles that we kind of step aside from our normal ways of conversing. We don't think of actually really developing our skills as listeners, so the active listener has a key role in listening and reflecting. And then there are the passive listeners, the other people in the group who are neither speaking nor listening. Well, the passive listeners are listening, but they are not responding. And I've found in my experience that the passive listener role is very interesting and rewarding, because it's really useful to check whether you really heard what the speaker was saying when the active listener responds. And quite often the active listener says something that I completely missed. So we take turns in the roles, except for the facilitator, who's always the same person. If there's somebody who has never done an empathy circle before and they would like to find out more, you can ask me any questions at any time. Just raise your hand. I'm going to give you a chance to answer any burning questions right now. Because I normally do forget to say everything. But I think that's just about it. Apart from there's one thing I forgot to say and I can't remember what it is. I'm sure Edwin will tell me. So we're going to start now with the first speaker. Okay, great. Do you want to just debrief? How was that? How did you feel about your presenting? And I got sort of hung up on this idea that I'd forgotten something, and I couldn't clear my head to find out what it was. But yeah, it was different to the first time I did it. I think the first time I did it was actually better than this time. Yeah, I forgot to have my list. Usually I have the list here just as a backup for me. I've got the list. You got the list, yeah. So but I found that it's kind of a personal. I know what it was. Is you can ask them to pause. Yeah. No, I think I said that.
Yeah, the only thing I thought was maybe missing in your, and I realized I didn't say this either, but like the facilitator also participates in the discussion as like the speaker and the listener as well. Yeah. So like we're not, but we just have that additional role of like reminding everyone of the guidelines if we've gotten off track, or keeping time, like that kind of thing, but that we do participate in the discussion. And that's something I forgot to say too. So, and I also forgot to say that the listener can ask for the speaker to pause so that they can reflect. Yeah, so I like that we can just look back at this and learn from it and refine it.
Yeah, well, I found what I enjoyed the, Katrina, like, and both of you made it somewhat personal too. Like, wow, this is there was a little bit of your experience in it too. Like, I appreciate that. And Samantha, Sam, you mentioned you may feel awkward or something like that. And I thought just naming that awkwardness was good, because I know that's the number one sort of issue is people feel like some anxiety, feel some anxiety about maybe reflecting. So actually naming it and I think helps put people at ease too. I don't usually do it, but I'm kind of learning from everybody here. So this is really great to just see how everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, I think that's important, because if you don't mention that it's actually not that easy for people to talk in this way, people may be sitting there thinking, what's wrong with me? Why am I not able to do this?
Yeah. Yeah, so giving a bit of a heads up, yeah, it was nice. It was help calming for people. So the personal aspect, I think I found it kind of connecting, and also the naming the awkwardness I found it kind of calming. So yeah. And then I think the part where it's like I'm just part of it is sort of that feeling of equality, right? We're all equal here, and we all actually have in the handout, it says we all hold the circle. So in a sense, we're all facilitators in that sense. If everybody's familiar with it, we're all sort of have that responsibility for holding the practice, and there's a sort of a shared responsibility as well as that feeling of equality too. Yeah. Okay. And should we go back to the full? Is there more, or let me see.
I'm good.
We're ready. Where is the breakout?
Yeah, I feel
room?
complete.
Okay. Close out rooms. I hope that was 15 minutes. Did everyone have enough time?
Our group did okay.
Okay, good. Oh, this is Did we lose Bill? Did Bill?
Okay.
Oh no, he's still there. Okay, never know if you're.
No, I know. I don't know whether I'm here or not. I think that's diagnostic.
Oh, he's got computer issues and sometimes
yes.
drops out.
Yes. Okay. All right. So welcome back. Some really interesting things that came up. Oh, there's Lou. Okay. I don't know. Do you want to, Lou? You feel? Should we do a little harvesting from what we?
Sure.
Before we go on. Okay.
Yeah. Does anyone have any particular insights or questions about what came out of that practice that they'd like to share? Pavel.
We noticed that we use the term reflecting quite often, where in fact we're trying to empathizing. So we use reflecting this, reflecting that, instead of empathizing this, empathizing the person. That's it.
Okay. I want to make a comment about that. So I use language depending on the group I'm in and what language I think they'll be attracted to. I adjust the language that I use. So if I think someone's going to be worried about the word empathy, like whether they can do that or not, or whether that's too squishy for them, then I might use the term reflecting. You know, it just depends on. That's what I do. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. Well, I just say one of the things that I came up with is that don't feel that you have to explain everything in the explanation. When you get to the circle, the breakout circles, you can then role model. So that is very helpful, kind of reduces the stress. And then, you can kind of bring along people. Some people are more experiential learners. And so therefore you're going to be addressing it right there.
Thanks, Bill. That's a mistake that I often make, is including too many things because I'm trying to be complete. Aoife?
Yeah, it was really interesting listening to Pavel and Dean, because it's quite different to my own. Well, I would think it's quite different, and then quite different to the Tuesday group that I was in. And I think it's like what I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Enneagram or any kind of personality type.
Yes.
That what I really find helpful from the Enneagram is just, we're different personalities. So we have different kind of goals, and, we say we're going to emphasize different things. And that's, I think, the beauty of this kind of facilitator training. It's allowing us all to incorporate that, and that will therefore make it more accessible to more different types of people. So. Thanks.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons the empathy team has been working on a kind of a description of the culture, what a culture of empathy is, and trying to define some of the attributes of it. And we're doing circles on Friday morning about that, is to try to capture, even though everyone, like you said, personalities, and we all have different ways of describing it because we're different personalities, making sure that we do have some alignment on what values we're talking about and what we're trying to promote.
Edwin?
Yeah, at the beginning of our circles, I mentioned that we had sent out a handout to the participants, and that there was a video and some videos. So it's that aspect of trying to prepare people beforehand too, so that they have some material just to reference that. And half the time people don't look at it, but it's still kind of, saying, it's that part about preparing people beforehand to take part, so that it takes off some of the pressure and maybe lowers some of the stress or anxiety, in terms of being prepared.
And in that regard, it took me a long time to realize that different people like to prepare differently and need different levels of preparation to do an experience. So some people won't want to read anything. Some people will want to watch a video. Some people want to read something. Some people want to know exactly what's going to happen, and they want to be very prepared in order for them to feel safe to do that. And other people, don't need that. So all the things that Edwin is describing make sense, and there isn't one right way. Everybody needs something a little different.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we go on quickly? No? All right, great. All right. You can see that I put in the core principles just for your reference, but we use that, and as hopefully it'll be even more developed, as a way, if there's something you kind of get off track, you kind of go back to the core principles as a way to kind of find yourself or do as much as you can to keep people on track. Anyway, that's another class or session. So our intent, remember, is an empathy circle is a place for everyone to be held with care and to be heard to their satisfaction. And then the topic today is, of course, questions about, especially that came up in last week, about facilitation of an empathy circle, or any questions that have risen since the last training. Of course, you can also speak about whatever's on your mind. And I think we'll have just about an hour. If we wanted 20, oh no, we're going to 12:30. So we have more time. Is that correct? Everybody's okay with that? Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So we do have more time. So we'll have about an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
Oh, we'll need some debrief
yeah.
time.
Well, I think we're going to 12:30, right?
Right.
So then at 12, if we stop at 12.
Oh, right.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. All right.
Time.
All right. And I guess we'll do what, groups of 4, I think, if we can.
Okay. So just to check, you're wanting to everybody come back at our 12 o'clock, which is an hour. What is that? An hour and
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay. Just
19 minutes.
Okay. 60. 80. Yeah, I'm just setting the time so to bring everybody back. Okay, and then we're doing. How long is each circle? What does that come out to? We're doing for each person is facilitating their circle. How long do they get? And
they would get. Let's see. Well, an hour I could do the math. That's 20 minutes.
So we got 80 minutes about.
Yeah. So you got something.
So about 20 minutes apiece.
About 20-minute circle for each person. So we're gonna do. Okay, great. So okay, you ready? Is that?
I'm ready.
Okay, there we go. Kind of mixed up the rooms. Hopefully,
good.
People got different.
That's Plymouth Sound.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's my local bay that I look out onto. And as an ocean scientist by training, it was just one of the things I picked up at uni.
Very nice.
Okay, so who would like to start? You could, how about each person sets the topic that they want and then just say how much, kind of the level of, challenge you want. And then just facilitate away. Anybody want to start? Aoife?
Are we doing 3 or 5 minutes?
5 minutes. Yeah, we could maybe do 3-minute turns. 3-minute turns. You have 20 minutes.
I'm happy to start facilitating.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to go first.
First, what is the topic you would like to do? And then what level of difficulty?
Okay. So I like the topic of the last one, the culture. How does your cultural background, how would that help or hinder your facilitation of the empathy circles?
And I'm glad to start. Oh, what was your difficulty level? Like how many interruptions and challenges do you want, or none? 0 to super hard.
What is super hard? 10?
10, I guess.
4?
4, okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can start. I guess I'll speak to you, Aoife. Yeah. So what is my ethnic? No, what was the question again?
Your cultural background, your cultural situation, heritage.
Oh, how is the heritage? Yeah, I find that a hard question because I kind of see people are kind of universal, internationally, having traveled a lot, been a wide variety of people. I don't know that it really matters that much, but maybe it does. Yeah.
So I'm hearing you say that you don't really identify with a certain culture or heritage, that you're international, you've traveled a lot, so it's not really a big thing for you.
Yeah, I don't have any, there's no like idea that comes up, says, hey, this is my heritage. It leads to, it kind of is, there's a big, affect there. So my background is German. My parents immigrated from Germany after World War II. And grew up, I was born here in the United States, and I don't know, you kind of have stereotypes of, Germans or, very fastidious or whatever. So yeah, it's a tough question for me. I don't have any, I kind of want some kind of a brilliant insight, but I don't really have one.
So I'm hearing that it's not really sparking, it's not very alive for you, but just you're sharing that your parents were German and they emigrated to America and you were born there. So yeah, that is the actual background.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's it. I'm gonna just say I feel fully heard because I don't have not a lot is coming to me.
Okay. Okay, Greg, would you listen to me?
Yes, that's fine. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sure.
One of the things that I noticed in the last group on Tuesday is that, well, I'm Irish and I also live in, like for 20 years, I've been living in an Indigenous Irish community, so Irish speaking, very strong cultural identity and very much focused on kindness and empathy. So a community where everyone knows each other and kind of looks out for each other. And I feel like that helps me in being empathic.
Oh, I hear you saying that you're, actually, I forgot that you gave a time span. For some time you've been living in a community that's very culturally Irish, they speak Irish and are, have a lot of, part of their culture is to have a lot of empathy and understanding, or empathy and caring. And therefore you feel that helps you to learn those traits.
Yeah. And I suppose where it can turn into a negative thing is that it, like I wondered last week or on Tuesday, was I being a little bit like treating people like they were children, like a bit patronizing, or yeah. Is it too soft?
So now you do wonder, however, if perhaps it's you have personally or in general, is it possible to become have so much empathy that you're sort of too soft? Which okay, yes, how's that?
Yeah, my internet cut out a wee bit there. Yeah, I feel fully heard. We can move on. Thank you, Greg.
Sure. Dean, would you like to listen?
I'm available, Greg. Thank you.
Okay.
Some ideas came up for me now. Can I share those? I didn't have any ideas before, so I was just thinking maybe I could share those now. Is it okay, Greg, if I interrupt?
Edwin. But if you, Edwin, could you just hold on to your ideas until it'll be your turn soon? One of the things about this circle is that we really are conscious of giving everyone equal time. So you will definitely get a chance.
Oh,
Probably.
okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Will do.
Yes. Okay. So I feel like this is a very interesting topic for me. I wonder a lot about culture and how much it affects people's ability to understand other people from other parts of the world. I've got a whole bunch of ideas that are swirling around. I hope I can keep it sensible. I mean, sometimes I think it'd be great if we all had one big culture, but what makes life interesting and the world interesting is people are from different cultures and will have different views on things. But what's a sort of a dangerous side of that is it's literally impossible to see or understand some things that are obvious to people from another culture.
Greg, could I just stop you there? Is that enough for you to get started, Dean?
Yeah. Right. So what I understood, what I felt that you said, was that empathy amongst different cultures can sometimes be misinterpreted, but variety is interesting. You said something at the beginning, but I forgot it. I do apologize.
That's okay. I think probably just how interesting of a topic this is for me. I think that I am a member of a culture, or I don't like to say product, but I'm a member of a culture that's egregiously blind. You know, my ancestors have gone all over the continent, if not the world, you know, unable to see what's right in front of them. And this can be a struggle if you're trying to develop empathy.
Okay, so you come from a culture that is blind to things around them, and it's very hard to get empathy with other things when you come from such a place.
Yes. Oh, okay. That I feel fully heard.
Edwin, would you reflect?
Yeah, good. Finally.
I too come from the bloody butcher's backyard. Being English, I'm aware of the blood that we've spilt across the continents. And sometimes when I try and talk to other cultures, I think that they assume that I'm a blind Brit and I am not aware of our heritage.
Yeah, I come from a bloody culture too, and so us bloody culture folks got to stick together.
Edwin, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to remind you of the process we're doing here. So when it'll be your turn next, but for now this is Dean's time. So within his time, it's more about you reflecting back what you are hearing him say empathically, rather than agreeing with him or, you know, identifying with him, anything like that. If you could set that aside for now. Yeah.
Okay. So I think you were saying something about being from a bloody culture. You got a bloody culture and feeling guilty and shame.
I don't feel guilty. I am aware of our legacy, and I find sometimes it is a roadblock to other people being able to hear me, because they presume that I am blind to my culture's sins.
So you find that because you're coming from this culture that has a bloody history, which you don't feel guilty about, that other people are kind of judging you or whatever, not really hearing you or not open to listening to you.
Yeah, I don't take personal responsibility for my culture, but I'm aware of the sins of my culture. I've always lived in a way that I hope is more empathic with the planet than people.
So you try to be empathic with the planet, and you don't take on the sins. You're aware of the sins of your culture, but kind of don't take them on.
Yeah. So sometimes though people make presumptions that because I'm English or British, that I'm arrogant and outrageous. I may appear forthright, but hopefully I'm not arrogant.
So people judge you, say, oh, there's a Brit, he's arrogant. And so they kind of judge you for that. And I think you're saying something about you try to be forthright.
Yeah, I try to be forthright, but in an empathic way, which is a contradiction.
Hmm. Oh, so forthright, you kind of speak the truth, but try to do it empathically.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Oh, okay. Greg, can I speak to you?
Yes.
Yeah, I imagine that there's different cultural, different cultures have different, different values, different ways of, you think of the Germans being kind of reserved, and the Italians, being very demonstrative and sort of emotional. So I guess there's those kind of stereotypes out there. But yeah, I'm not really, yeah.
Okay. You're aware of stereotypes of different cultures or people from different cultures, and you're not sure how valid they are.
Mm-hmm. The one thing is when I grew up, it was a conservative, evangelical, sort of Christian background. I thought I knew the answers to, to life, and I was right. And I spent 10 years traveling around the world, and I just realized, well, if I was here in Indonesia, I'd be Muslim. If I was born here in, India, I'd be Hindu. And so I just kind of started seeing sort of the relativity of, the sort of the philosophy, a lot of the values and philosophies, and just started sort of valuing people, I think, more for just who they are. So, yeah.
Through the 10 years spent traveling around the world, you sort of, I guess I would say, you woke up to the fact that the evangelical Christian point of view may not be necessarily unique or the only right view, and doesn't have all the answers, and that you realize that your worldview or your faith would be very dependent on where you actually were born and raised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then just the term woke has a political sort of connotation, which I find is kind of, I don't know, it's sort of arrogant or something, like, oh, you're woke, you're not woke. That I think we're all kind of growing, ongoing. It's like, I just see it as sort of human growth, and we all need to, we can all grow. It's not like you suddenly have this one realization and you're suddenly, woke or something. So I guess I see it more as this ongoing, we're all learning, we all keep learning and growing, and hopefully, and that's actually part of empathy. I don't know that Carl Rogers, who this work is sort of based on, he talked about when we really can sort of see ourselves, who we really are, that's when we can really change. So if we sort of avoid each other, and we just don't see ourselves, that we can't change. But when we can really see who we are, our really deeper, sense of self, then we're able to change and sort of to grow. And this whole thing about, oh, you're woke, you're not woke. I mean, it's like that kind of has this thing of, oh, there's this point in time where you kind of become totally aware, almost like enlightenment or something, which I haven't seen anybody that's enlightened. All this stuff, this Buddhist stuff, oh, you're enlightenment, we're all going to go for enlightenment. It's like, I just don't see it. It's like I just can't see that. I mean, I don't know anybody that's enlightened. I bet you the Buddha wasn't even enlightened. I doubt Jesus was enlightened. I just don't.
Edwin, can you?
What?
Edwin, sorry, Greg, do you want to intervene there?
I just was going to say, I can't keep up with all the things you're saying.
Oh.
Okay. Well, it's time now anyway. So would you like to give it a go, Greg, or would you like to have a shorter thing do you want to give it a go?
Well, it was very interesting. And people you're saying you don't think people wake up at one moment, there's a continual growing.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you. That was good.
Oh, are we still going?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you pick someone.
Oh, if would you like to listen?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. I think when it comes to culture, I have a lot of value judgments, and I am very negative about my own culture, and I tend to be sort of a naive seeker after a perfect culture.
Okay, so you have this judgment around your own culture and maybe a negative kind of judgment, and you sense in yourself that there is a bit of a naive vision of there being a perfect culture.
Yes, that's right. And I learned, well, one of the things I think, in my opinion, a lot of white Americans, especially men, want to do is they want to be Native Americans. So when I was younger, I took a lot of classes that were offered. And at one class, the teacher said, well, we're all white people. He said, you're all members of the largest Indian tribe in the United States, the Wanabe tribe. It took me a while to get what he meant.
So when you were younger, you had this sense that you really wanted to be a Native American, and you noticed that a lot of other young men of your kind of background were the same. And on one course, you were there with a lot of your peers, and the teacher said you're all part of this great tribe of white Native Americans.
Yes, the Wannabe tribe.
Oh, the Wannabes.
Yeah, he pronounced it Wanabe, and we all looked at each other like, "Oh, so cool, we're in." And then it's like, "Oh, wait a minute, he's having fun on us." Anyway, so that was, and I think what Edwin was saying kind of rings true somewhat. Is as you get older and learn a little more, there are no perfect cultures, and it actually places a burden on especially minority people in this country if you expect them to be all wonderful and godlike because they're, well, he's an Indian or he's a black man, so that makes them have to be like better than anybody else, because the liberal white male says that they're these magic people. So there's a trap there.
So you're acknowledging that there is a trap there, that in this situation you were in, he said the Wannabe tribe, and you realized maybe there was like, you were embarrassed. Sorry, stop. That, or disheartened that you had found a tribe and then you realized it was a joke. And then you were saying that that this, even the idea of the liberal white male saying that this is a perfect culture, is another form of kind of delusion, of thinking that, reinforcing this idea that one thing is the answer.
Yes, I feel fully heard.
Okay, I think we're ready for the next. That was about 20 minutes.
I might just have a bio break if you
Okay,
can.
sure.
Yeah.
So you want to do any debrief on that?
Well, I'm wondering what you think.
I just noticed that both of you weren't giving her any real challenges, so I threw a couple in there. Just wondering if didn't want to make life too hard for her.
I think 4 doesn't warrant me attacking her, because 4, I'm a bit too much for a 4. I'm more of an 8 or 9 guy. I'm not a 4.
Yeah, and
I'd like to think I could try to be, but sorry, Greg.
No, I feel like, yeah, I think of 3 or 4 was, I don't know. I just didn't feel like I needed to add any more trouble because, well, you were doing a good job.
Well, I was doing it because nobody else was. So.
I'll try a little harder next time.
Well,
yeah, you were all very easy on me. At one point I thought, am I missing something? Is there something subtle happening here that I'm just not, I didn't hear what was the thing? Why?
They thought I was doing a good enough job of harassing you. So I guess how did you feel in terms of the difficulty level?
Compared to the one on Tuesday, which was just all hell. That was like I was like, but I do have a kind of a migraine, so I was relieved.
Oh,
yeah, so thank you.
Oh, good. Okay, who wants to go next?
Okay, I'll go.
And any topic you want, you choose a topic.
Oh, well, now how long is this? Is it 3 minutes?
20 minutes. Oh, you have 20 minutes and I think 3-minute turns just to keep the thing moving.
And we already did the introduction, right? We don't need, okay.
Unless you want to do it again.
No, I think I'd take too much time. Anyway, so who would like to go first as the speaker? Any volunteers?
What's our topic?
Yeah, that was
well, the topic is, okay, who wants to suggest a topic? I have no ideas.
Whatever's alive in you. I always like that.
Well,
in your mind.
The present moment.
Well, let's talk about whether it's too late for us to stop climate and disaster, or do you think we have time? Is that too much? Is that too big a topic?
It's very good. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
And your timing, Greg? So I can
3 minutes, yeah. And also difficulty level, be nice. Come on, 3 minutes, 3 or 4 out of 10.
So Edwin can do something.
So I will pick Edwin as my active listener. That way you can get straight into the role. But Edwin.
Yep.
Okay. Are we too late to put on the brakes? No. There's no time like the present. My little adage is less is more. If we have less now, there's more for the other generations. I've always been saying
it's not too late. Yeah, too late. And if you use less of the resources, I guess there's going to be more for future generations.
Yep, I've been saying for the last 20 years that the equations of life are being rewritten, and we may not be in the equation. If we don't like that, it's tough because we've made a bed and we're going to have to lie in it.
Something about you wanting to lie in your bed.
Yep. The equations of life are being rewritten, and we may not be in the equation, and it's tough because we're going to have to lie in it because we made that bed, and we're going to have to cope with what we've done.
Okay, so kind of as society, we've created our bed, our society, and we're going to just have to take responsibility for the consequences.
Yep.
And it sounds like you're kind of happy about it.
No, I'm happy about the fact that the conversation is actually now in the mainframe, I'm not just seen as the loony left or the Mr. Weird guy who's talking about stuff that people go, oh God, it's him again. They're actually going, what did you say? Which is a refreshing change.
Excuse me, just one thing, Edwin, just to keep in mind is we really want to avoid saying whether you think that the speaker is in this mood or frame of mind or another. If he doesn't actually say that himself, then let's just leave that out, okay?
So you're saying that I shouldn't say anything else besides what he's saying to me?
Not quite. You want to get at the essence of what he's saying, but rather not in the sense of trying to read his mood or his feelings.
Oh, so you don't really want me to read his mood or feeling is kind of what you're saying.
Oh, I think I'm in a trap here.
So you're feeling sort of trapped. Is that you're kind of having some kind of difficulty, or you're feeling kind of lost or trapped or something, and you don't know what to do?
Okay, Dean, go ahead. I think you've got 20 seconds.
I feel fully heard. Thank you, Edmund.
Okay. I'll speak to Aoife then.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, that was really fun. That was, I really enjoyed that. Kind of reflecting Greg, you know, he was like, oh, I'm going to correct you. And then just kind of sucking him into a dialogue, and I wasn't going to let him out of it. I should have kept going. Said, oh, you want Dean now to go. So I shouldn't have let him go.
So we enjoyed setting that trap for Greg, like an evil empath.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you wonder maybe it should have gone on for longer.
Yeah, I was kind of enjoying it, and I let him off the hook, you know. So yeah, in terms of that, the way to check on that would be to say, Dean, did you feel heard? Because it's really about if Dean feel heard. I could say anything I want, and the question is, does Dean feel heard or not? So that's sort of a way to sort of check that, I think.
Okay.
So if that were to happen, you know, in real life, the way to check would be to check with the speaker. So you may have picked up.
Oh yeah, the speaker, right? Yeah, right, speaker.
You may have picked up on something even incorrectly. So instead of talking to the reflective listener, to actually go straight to the speaker and say, was that okay with, you know what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's kind of it's in that case, it's the speaker whose sort of job it is to feel heard or not, than to say it again, like, hey, you know, but it gets complicated, yeah. But that's one thing I would have done.
So acknowledging that it's the speaker who's really in control at that moment, that they are setting the kind of the parameters of what's okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of this emotional reflecting back the emotion. So yeah, check.
Yeah, I got to think about that more, because there's another part of going deeper, you know, in the reflection, is if the person kind of reflects back a feeling that they're sensing, even the speaker doesn't know the feeling, you can sort of do a feeling guess. If you're familiar with NVC, you're trying to do a feelings or a needs guess. And sometimes that can actually help. So yeah, it's a interesting dance there.
So often, or sometimes, whenever the process actually does get quite deep, it's appropriate to reflect back, like a guess of a feeling, even if a feeling hasn't been explicitly articulated in words.
Yeah, I feel heard. Thanks.
Greg, would you listen to me?
Yes.
When I think about the topic of what that you set, my migraine gets really, really sore. But if I don't think about it, it goes away. It lessens.
If you think about the topic, which was, are we too late to stop climate catastrophe? Your migraine gets worse, but if you don't think about it, it gets better.
Yeah, and I just spent the last couple of years completely immersed in that whole world, and I actually just gave up a job last week that was all about that. So I've been in heaven not talking about such things. So it's funny that you set that as a topic.
So you just last week left a job which was all about that, the climate catastrophe stuff, and it's been heaven, and so it's funny that this is the topic of this circle.
Yeah, so I was really glad when Edwin changed the subject back to the training.
And so it made you glad that Edwin changed the subject back to the training.
Yeah, so I think I'm just going to change the subject and talk about my migraine. So it's really painful. It's like in my teeth, and I also have sore teeth as well. It goes up into my nose and into my sinuses and then round into my eye and like around the back of my head. It's really, really horrible, and I'm in so much pain. It's terrible. I don't know what to do.
So your migraine is awful. It's up in the sinuses, and it comes down to your teeth and around the back of your head, and it's just awful. And you don't know what to do.
Yeah, I do know what to do. I'm just kind of meditating, feeling the sensations. I was going to go into a big long monologue to try and disrupt the thing, but I couldn't. I failed. So yeah. So that's happening.
Oh, okay. So you were unable to continue your monologue because of your migraine, and otherwise you would have been pressing the buttons to see if I would respond as a facilitator.
Yeah. So sorry about that. Yeah. I'm really enjoying the training. It gives me hope for the future. I suppose that's it. It makes me feel more hopeful if we're doing this kind of work, because this whole problem is a consciousness problem. So if we can help people get their consciousness kind of into some kind of alignment with the health of the planet, then there may be hope.
So you feel very encouraged that this is going on, this training and this Empathy Circle thing. And yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I feel heard.
Let me get my little timer back here. Okay, Dean, would you like to listen?
Yeah, I'll reflect for you. Greg, thanks.
Okay, start. Okay, I'm going to give myself 4 extra minutes. Actually, I'm sorry I picked this topic because, yeah, it kind of gives me a headache too. And it just came to mind because I had to pick something. And it's been, boy, I don't know if I have anything to say about it at all. I do. Let me see. I've been listening to recordings of a day-long retreat that was held electronically at this Zen center nearby, and I am floored by what I consider the depth and wisdom of the presenters. It was all women, and most of them were kind of in a Buddhist tradition, but not all. Yeah, I hope more people get hooked into that.
Ooh. I hear and regret that you chose the subject, but actually, when you started talking, you reflected on the fact that you'd spent a day listening to these Zen masters, or should I say Zen mistresses, and you think they are of the Buddhist tradition. And in my opinion, the Buddhist tradition is a very good tradition.
What was the tradition? I didn't hear. What was the tradition that?
Oh, it's a Buddhist tradition. Do you know what I mean? The Buddhists are really.
Yeah, but it was. There used to be. Do they have like a sangha or something?
They did, didn't they? Oh, sound baths. They do really good sound baths.
Okay, yeah. Dean, Edwin, if this is all very nice, and we do want to hear what you have to say. Let's.
Oh, good, and I want to share it too. Thank you. I do really want to share it.
Okay.
Greg, when is that retreat on? Can I listen to it? I'd really like you to give me the link.
Yeah. However, now this is a real world thing and not a play. There's actually a plumber knocking on the door right now. I'm not kidding.
Hey, by the plumber!
Hold on just a moment.
Okay.
Maybe somebody else should take over.
We'll talk about the retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is stress. Workmen coming into your house, it really is quite stressful.
It is. Yeah, we had an oven that kind of the igniter burned out, so we had someone come in, and then of course they're sitting there working on it and taking off their mask and stuff. So you had that too.
Yeah.
Or?
Yes, bloke came in to do the windows, and he was meant to have a mask on, and he didn't have a mask on, and he just carried on doing the window, and I was just like stood in the other room going, I thought they said they were COVID ready, like, and so I had to bite my lip and just be thankful for the fact my window's shut. So, sorry. So the Zen mistresses were pretty insightful. You felt that there was a lot of depth involved there, Greg, that you think could help others, and you hope that that sort of enlightenment can be brought forward a bit more.
Yes, I feel fully heard.
Okay, Aoife.
No, I don't want to listen to you.
Oh, have I said something that offended you, Aoife?
I just don't want to.
Oh, I don't know what to do now. I sort of feel rejected.
Dean, can you pick someone else?
Well, I'm just wondering why I'm being rejected.
I think I understand that you would feel that way, but for the moment, let's if you don't mind, go ahead by picking someone else to listen.
Well, if I have to, I feel upset now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, all right, then Edwin, will you listen, please?
I don't want to listen to you either. You're just like
no one wants to listen to me now.
Dean, I'll listen to you.
Oh, thank you,
I'll
Greg.
listen. Okay.
Oh, no, I'm conflicted. Who do I pick now? I'll go with Edwin.
Okay, I hear you're feeling like rejected, like people just don't want to talk to you, and you're feeling just feeling rejected.
Yeah, I'm just very intense, especially about the climate, because I've been talking about it for a long time, and everyone just thought I was crazy, but now they just think I'm mad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're feeling a lot of intensity about the climate, and you've been sort of talking about it, and people have been ignoring you, but yeah.
I'm just mad that they ignored me for so long now.
Mm-hmm. So have some anger around them kind of ignoring you for a long time.
Well, ignoring the issue, not me. Bugger me. I mean, I'm just an ant, and like I say, we're like the virus that's the problem. And maybe the virus is here to remove the virus, but alas, it wasn't this virus.
So you've been talking about climate change for a long time. People have sort of been ignoring it, and maybe they see you as sort of the problem, as maybe the virus, and you're feeling that. Well, yeah.
I thought I was talking about our culture being the virus. I didn't think it was me, but I might be a virus too. You might be right.
Oh, so you're seeing your culture as the virus?
Yeah, we are. We are the virus.
Oh. You're sure? You feel emphatic that the culture is a virus.
This is a virus. I mean, we're killing the planet, and there's no two ways about it, isn't there?
Yeah, and this culture is like a virus, and it's killing the planet, and there's no two ways about it. You're like totally sure about that.
Yeah, I think it's good riddance to bad rubbish. We're the rubbish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're the virus, we're rubbish, and good if we all die.
Yeah, preferably the ultra rich first, but it won't happen that way with it, because they'll be costed in their bunkers somewhere, drowning their sorrows in their Chablis or whatever it is that they drink. I have no idea, because I'm poor.
I didn't quite catch that. Are you saying there's going to be the rich will be living in their bunker? I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, the rich will survive for the longest because they have got the most equity or the ability to isolate themselves from their excesses that are killing the rest of us.
Mm. So you're seeing that the rich are going to probably survive, and it's people like yourself who are poor are going to, you know, suffer the consequences or die.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. I'm in the nice part of the world, but I mean, it's the real poor in the horrible parts of the world. They're the ones that are paying the price first, as always.
Mm-hmm. So you're just saying that there's going to be the really poor are going to suffer the most and pay the price, and so yeah,
So yeah, I'd just like to clarify that, and by saying that they are the ones that have caused the problem, and they're the ones that are suffering least of the problem.
Mm-hmm. So the people who have done the least to cause the problem are suffering the most. And it sounds like a sense that it's not fair or something. It's not right.
Well, I was always taught it's not right. I mean, that's just the way of the world, isn't it? It's never right, but it doesn't stop it from happening, does it?
Yeah. So it's kind of the world is not right, and you know, yeah. So it doesn't. It's just kind of how the world is. It's an unfair world.
Okay. Dean, do you feel fully heard?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Have I gone over my time now?
That was time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was our 20 minutes too. So.
Oh,
well, deep breath.
Yeah.
I just have a question. Edwin, sometimes during that one, it sounded like a wee bit like you were questioning him, and I just wondered about that. Like, you know, because I've noticed you do that, and it feels very fluid and kind of, but it's like your sense sounds like, maybe it's because it's so short and it is so conversational that it sounds a bit questiony, but you weren't messing up there. That was like,
yeah, it's I get that. It's like it has sort of a questioning. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. It's you know, there's different ways of reflecting. I guess it depends on Dean. Do you feel kind of heard by that? Like, what was your experience of? I have sort of a question in my reflection, like, oh, are you saying this? Are you saying that? And so I just wondering how did that land for you?
Personally, I don't mind that because it allows me to clarify what I've actually said. I like to hear what I've said on several different occasions. That way I can then understand what I'm actually thinking, because what happens in here and what happens out there aren't the two. So personally, I don't find it bad, but sometimes if I was facilitating, I'd be saying like, excuse me, can we act as reflecting rather than putting our view across? But we'll see in a minute, won't we?
Yeah, there's sort of a spectrum there too. It's like, you know, how do we reflect back and something? Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of like up to the speaker. Do they feel heard? You know. So would we? Yeah. In a sense, we are checking, right? When we reflect, we are checking. Hey, is this what it is for you? So there's sort of a question, a checking. There's sort of a question checking in there. So, but how is there a point where it kind of shifts over to being a out and out question that you know, on some other topic? So that's something to think about. Yeah, I have to think about that some more. This gave me some things to think about. But
I think the clarification is the questioning about what the person said, and then there's questioning as in like seeking for your own knowledge, rather than questioning, have you understood what they've said? Rather than, oh, this is what you said. Now what about that? That to me is the fine line between the two.
Did you feel I was kind of asking beyond where you were, or
no.
just I was just asking for, am I hearing you? Am I getting you? Is this what it means?
That's how it felt for me.
Okay, so yeah, well, that's the judge. The ultimate judge is you, if you're feeling heard. So yeah, I mean, you could say, oh, the world is a horrible place, and I could say, you feel like you're an asshole, and you say, I feel heard, right? It's kind of you know, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like in a sense, do you feel heard to your satisfaction? That's kind of like the ultimate judge. So yeah, but good things. Anyway, well, we can do some more debrief at the end if you want to.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted Aoife's question. Dean said it felt helpful and that you were actually reflecting. And to me, it mostly felt that, but at times I thought you were edging into adding some of your own values or something.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah. That's a whole topic too, is how do we reflect? I think we need a whole topic just to explore the nature. And something I want to try in Dean's turn is to do, I don't know what the reflection is called. It's like first person singular.
Did I just take my earphones out now? So I'm not pre-warned about what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'll try it out. So yeah, so anyway, let's jump into it and then we can debrief at the end. Okay, so topic and level of challenge.
I'll be back in a second.
Okay. Racial guilt.
Okay.
So I'd like to have a debate or a discussion or circle to be held about our racial guilt and how we can overcome it. So who would like to model the process then? Who'd like to start?
And level of conflict, of challenge?
Well, judging it by how aggressive a 4 was, I'll settle for a 6.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
We shall see.
I'll go first.
Okay. When you're let me know when you're ready and I'll start the timer.
I'm ready. Edwin, would you like to listen?
Listening.
Okay. Racial guilt. I feel very guilty. I didn't, I guess I didn't used to, but I do, this was second half of my life. I'm in my 60s. And I think it can be a useful thing to feel that. I'll pause.
Yeah, so you're in your 60s and you didn't feel guilty earlier in your life, and you do feel some guilt now, and you see that can be beneficial to feel that guilt.
Yeah, and I hope that the benefit would be taking the feelings of guilt as a stimulus for action. Pause.
So do you see that the guilt can be a source for sort of motivation, a stimulus for taking some sort of action?
All right. Although I really dislike that word stimulus, Edwin, would you please not use that word? It really bothers me. It makes me think of 1950s economists, and I don't like those people at all. So stop doing that, would you?
So you're just really want me to stop using the word stimulus because it reminds you of these 50s economists, and you just really don't want me to use that term.
Yeah, cut it out. You're doing it again. Would you stop it?
I don't want you to use that term. Would you stop it?
Okay, I guess. What?
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that Edwin is merely reflecting your emotions. You are allowed to have your emotions to your fullest extent. And when someone is reflecting back to you your own emotions, please don't take it as the personal attack. It's just someone showing you how you come across.
Okay. Well, all right. Thank you. So I've been hearing various teachers lately saying that if we're not, the only way to not be a racist is to be anti-racist actively.
Mm-hmm. So you're hearing people talk about the only way that you can not be racist is to be against racism.
Yes, and not just be against it, but to actively work against racism in the structures of our society.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just be against it, but to be actively working to change the social structures.
Yes. Okay, I feel fully heard.
Okay, cool. Then I'll speak to Dean.
Oh, 1 second. Timing malfunction. Yes, Edwin, please.
Yeah, this
Can I just interject for a second? Aoife, do you know what we're talking about? No. Aoife, you were out when I suggested the subject of racial guilt and.
Yeah, I'm just making a cup of tea.
No, it's okay. I was just clarifying that you were aware.
To be honest with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll start your timer again.
Yeah, I hope Aoife, you would pay attention. It's really quite annoying when you're not paying attention. Like, I think everybody should be here and be present. It's really not, you know, it's sort of disrespectful if you're like, oh, I'm going to wander around, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go away.
I can't hear you because my kettle's boiling.
Could we respect the roles, Aoife? When Edwin's speaking, he's allowed to vocalize his emotions, and we should not take the emotions that are vocalized in the group as personal attacks, even if they may be directed towards us. It's an expression of the emotions that are stirred up by the group. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be able to give a response. Edwin, may I ask you to please bear in mind that sometimes people have different ways of coping with listening. Some people don't necessarily like to stay static and staring at a screen. Some people actually do like to listen as they're moving around.
Well, I like it when people pay attention. Like if I'm speaking, I like it when people pay attention, not be, kind of wandering around doing other things. And I just think it's kind of disrespectful. See, there she goes again. It's well, like that is just really nasty.
I think it's okay because then we get to see her dog, and I like that dog. It's a very nice looking dog.
Greg,
yeah,
could we please respect the roles? You are a listener at the moment. I am acting as the reflector for Edwin. When it is your turn to actually be the speaker, you are then allowed to express your emotions.
Oh, okay.
Edwin, I will
I guess so. Then I'll speak to you. I'll continue speaking to you right now.
I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
Right.
Well, if you're not going to pay attention, you may as well just leave, really. I mean, it's like, you know.
Please,
really.
could I ask for quiet for a second?
I won't do it again. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, everyone. We have roles in this active circle. This active circle, we have the role of the speaker, we have the role of the active listener, reflector, and we have the role of the passive listener. If we respect the circle process and each take our roles seriously and with due deference to the other people in our group, then when it is our turn, we can vocalize our emotions. Edwin, you were expressing the fact that you were unhappy with someone not paying close attention to you and actually walking away from you when they were actually being a listener.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I really feel like you got it. So, so that's accurate. And the other thing is this topic of guilt. Like, I just cannot get into this guilt stuff. You know, it's just like, you know, to me, this white guilt, all this stuff. It's like, I mean, to me, the people are people. And if you look at the different cultures, there's plenty of racism throughout all the different cultures, right? It's like, and racism is just, to me, a form of judgment, and we're just swimming in judgment.
Edwin, could I try and interject and reflect what you've just been speaking about, because I don't want to lose what you were saying. I believe you started off by saying racism, there's white racism and there's racism from other cultures, and there's plenty of racism in all of us and in all cultures, so you don't actually like to hear the word racism.
It's not that I don't like to hear the word, but it's like, I'm not going to get into a personal guilt trip around it, because it's to me, racism is a form of judgment. Yeah, but she took all my time. Aoife took all my time with running around. I should have a little bit more time here to really express myself.
Okay, so there's plenty of guilt to go around, and you have expressed your dissatisfaction at the timing mechanism, and you feel that you haven't been heard.
Yeah, because Aoife was wandering around, you know, making her tea and stuff and not paying attention. So that kind of distracted me. So I think I should get a little bit of extra time.
Okay, you feel that you didn't have enough time because someone distracted you when it was your time as the speaker. I can understand that, but I would like to say that we are trying to respect each other's time and roles within the group. And next time it is your turn to speak, if you could speak rather than reacting, then you will actually have longer to be heard.
Okay, I really feel put down, but I'll obey the rules here.
it's not a case of obeying rules, it's a case of respecting rules. Because if we don't respect the process, we are not respecting ourselves and each other.
That sounds awful complicated, like about respect. And I don't know, you know, I mean, different people have different ideas about respect. And I think that your ideas of respect and my ideas of respect might be, you know, kind of different. So, and I'm sure everybody else here has other.
Find out what it means to me. Suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me.
Okay. Can we all please be quiet for a minute? And draw a few breaths and reflect upon the fact that none of us are respecting each other in this circle at this moment and at this time. If we could draw these 2 breaths and collect ourselves and still ourselves, then we may be able to hear the voice within us that will allow us to reflect upon the person who is actually speaking and allow them to feel fully heard, as we would want to feel fully heard ourselves. So I will pick Aoife as my active listener.
I'm listening.
This is a hot topic and it stirs up a lot of emotions in everyone, this race issue. And I'm a part of a group on a global base trying to address racism within XR. And it's very hard to do such a thing from a position of power, as in white power. So I'll pause.
Okay, so you're acknowledging that the issue of racism is a huge one and big within XR at the minute. And there's a discomfort there coming from the white man, British colonialist perspective.
Yes, because as a white British male who used to be a bit racist because of my upbringing, the topic is a bit close to home for me. So it's not only a cultural guilt, there's a personal guilt. Of course.
Okay, so you're acknowledging that within your upbringing, you were kind of taught to be racist. So this, although you're not now, it feels very close to home, this issue. It's, you know, it's part of your culture.
Yeah, our cultural heritage is that we went out, conquered the world and brought it back. And we thought we were very smug at enforcing our views upon others. And we call this colonialism. And this colonialist mindset is a pandemic that needs to be transcended or overcome.
Okay, so you see your culture as being kind of the epicenter of the global degradation, global downward spiral, and that now it's been acknowledged. And sorry, I forgot the words that you said, something like it's a time of reckoning for that whole kind of way of being, and you're in the epicenter of it.
Yeah, I didn't actually say I'm in the epicenter of it, but yeah, you've got the gist of what I was trying to say there about the fact that as a white man, we are at the epicenter of the cultural problem and the colonial mindset.
So although you didn't use the word epicenter, yeah, the white British thing is kind of pretty much front of the whole colonialist movement.
Yeah, thank you. I feel heard.
Thank you. Edwin, would you listen to me?
Listening.
I enjoy to hear people say that they used to be racist, or they still are racist, or, you know, that it's something they're working on, because I love the truth. And I really don't enjoy bullshit, especially very, very intellectual, very clean, shiny bullshit. So, like, I grew up in Northern Ireland, so all of these issues have been there my whole life. And talking about prejudice and colonialism, yeah, maybe that's enough to begin with.
Mm-hmm. So you appreciate people sort of taking responsibility for race, you know, being racist, and that you grew up in Ireland where these issues were sort of in the air, colonialism and race and so forth.
Yeah, and I know that the only way forward and the only way, it's like kind of that thing, do you want to be right or do you want to
You're really breaking up. Maybe you could turn your video off. I didn't hear what you said.
you know, because you can't, I think my internet, that thing that, I think it just went for a second. I'll turn the video off if it happens again.
Yeah. Okay.
The thing of, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And this, you know, if you want to be happy, if you want to heal, if you want to move forward, it's really about relinquishing that whole idea of being right, of being correct.
Mm-hmm. So it's to move forward, you have to kind of let go of being right. And so you think people need to sort of address the truth, and instead of trying to think you're right, kind of see the truth, and then you can move forward.
Yeah, and I think that this process is a wonderful one for that, because you could, on any polarity, it would allow someone to say, you know, to acknowledge that I was, or even if someone was saying, I don't like you because of the color, or I'm afraid of you, it's usually fear, I'm afraid of you because of the color of your skin, that this process would actually help you to detach from that judgment as something you've inherited. And it would help you to then relinquish it, to let it go.
So you're sort of appreciating the empathic process we're doing here, because if you do express a judgment, that the process sort of transforms it, then you kind of let go of that judgment. So appreciating this.
Yeah, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Speak to Greg.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's how I see it. I'm glad Aoife mentioned that, because in terms of racism and anti-racism, I see the third way is empathy, right? It's like we can be racist, we can be against racist, or we can be for empathy. And I kind of choose the empathic approach.
Okay, so as between or outside of racist versus anti-racist, there is learning to have empathy.
Mm-hmm. So I had thought of doing an empathy circle on empathizing with racism, you know, so because that's what I think, instead of being against racism, we need to empathize with it. So.
Okay, so you had thought of holding an empathy circle with the topic of empathizing with racism, as rather than be against racism, empathize with it.
And then another circle on empathizing with against racism, right? Empathize with all the sides, and then you bring the sides together to empathize with each other. And I think that's where the real healing happens. Like, we have these rallies where the political right, you know, comes to Berkeley, and then there's all these Berkeleyites, very liberal, progressive here. They come out, we're against hate, we're against the, you know, misogyny, we're against this, we're against, I mean, it's the whole litany of againstness. And there we are with our little empathy tent with just a few people saying, hey, we're willing to listen to everybody, and we want you guys to listen to each other. And so it's a sort of a minority position, This empathy is a real minority position in the larger cultural, scheme of things.
Okay, so and after having the empathy circle about empathizing with racism, you would have one about empathizing with anti-racism, and try to get the people to empathize with each other and hear each other. And an example of that is when, say, a right-wing event is held in Berkeley, that the Berkeleyites, who are decidedly not right-wing, come out and protest and say about all the things they're against. And then over in a little corner, there's the empathy tent, where as a minority group, you are helping people to actually listen to each other.
Yeah, so I'm all for empathizing with racism, empathizing with hate, empathizing with colonialism, empathizing with misogyny, empathizing with sexism, empathizing with evil, because I think that's the anti-group to that too. So that's kind of my approach. And I think that what we're doing here is the sort of the way forward, is bring all the parties together into an empathy circle and have them hear each other.
Okay, so you're saying basically empathize with evil, with everyone, and including evil, and bring all the parties together.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. So I think that's our time too, the 20. We only have like about 6 minutes, so should we just use that time for a debrief? Like, how was all that? And thanks, Dean.
Whew.
I was concerned that you thought that I was actually doing that, like, just normally. Like, I would just pet my dog and have a cup of tea.
I was just picking up on that, just to exaggerate it. So
I'm not sure I understood what you just said.
I wouldn't usually just really focus on my dog or make a cup of tea in the middle of an empathy circle.
Oh.
It's not like regular behavior.
Oh.
And I was expecting Dean to call me back, but he didn't. It went on for so long.
I missed out on that one. I thought you genuinely had some need, and I didn't want to be rude to that need or insensitive to that need. So it's a valid point. I'll bear that in mind next time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question, though. I guess in my last few decades, we've learned that there's different kinds of learning, so there must be also different kinds of listening. And I wonder if it's actually okay if somebody gets up and walks around, maybe. But I remember I went to a retreat where this one woman, she sort of explained ahead of time. She says, while you're talking, I'm going to be doing artwork. I cannot listen to people if I'm not doing artwork. And that was just the way she was. So maybe, does that ever come up in an empathy circle?
yeah, it's sort of, I mean, I've had people like, posting chat stuff, responding. One of the circles I went to, the guy's a sign maker, and he was holding up signs all the time while the person was speaking. And instead of telling him not to do that, I used the empathy circle to speak to somebody else and get a reflection. Say, it's pretty annoying when people hold up signs and stuff. So I kind of try to stay as much in the empathy circle process itself to speak to things that are happening. So, but yeah,
So it's like empathy. When I hear you talk about it in that and what you said before, it's almost like empathy is the water that's being poured in any fire. So you just, because, when I said no earlier, I don't want to talk to you. When Dean was saying, would you talk to me? And I said no. Like, one of the things on Tuesday that came up was that you could just say to somebody, okay, so, because somebody said that when I was facilitating, and I didn't know what to do. It was really shocking, because I went into kind of control. It was like, well, how do I make them, so to explore that actually you just throw some empathy on it, which is what you're like, okay, so I'm hearing that you don't want to, that would be, I'm hearing that you're not ready to listen now, so just move on to somebody else.
Yeah, instead of going into explanation or constriction, yeah, use the first thing is empathy and sort of an attitude of empathy. And then maybe do some adding, like first a little bath of empathy, then the correction. Yeah. And that kind of, people start feeling hurt. And it's, it's a dance too. It's sometimes kind of
First
hard
the love
to
and
do.
then the stick.
It's what?
First
Empathy
the love
and then the stick, right? And the edge or the education, empathy first and then the, yeah. Anything else?
So from everyone else's point of view, what was it like when I tried to pour calm in that chaotic situation? Was that the right or the wrong approach? Just need a reflection.
It seemed like you're getting a kind of educational and maybe a little bit more empathy. You know, again, that was the same thing, was a bit more empathy in there instead of, you know, kind of controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do minimal control and then maximum empathy. And and this, I've never hardly ever had anything like this kind of happen. I mean, it's like we're so over the top, you know, in some of these things that we're doing that usually don't.
Well, with 3 people butting in, I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, you just totally lose control. Yeah.
But you didn't bring any of your own emotion into it, other than, you know, so, and you de-escalated it.
Well, that's what I tried to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In terms of de-escalation, you could say, oh, Edwin, I'm hearing you say this. Aoife, you're saying this. Greg, you're saying this. So you could give a quick reflection back to bring it back into the empathic and then say, well, can we now continue, you know? And so maybe that, and you know, it's a balancing act too. It's kind of hard to come up with hard and fast. You got to sort of feel it. So it's hard to have these hard and fast rules.
I'm sure there's a game you could make up, like where you're like a fast thing, where you're really, no matter what somebody says, you have to reply with empathy. Do you know, to try and really drum it in?
Yeah, like an abuse.
Fire. Oh, what?
An abuse circle. People just throw. It's like the when they had the civil rights. I'm closing the rooms, but when they had the civil rights, they had to practice being abused, right, before they did the lunch counter sit-ins. So you just take abuse, like, and then you just kind of reflect back. I'm hearing you say this and hearing you say this, and then you go to the next person. That'd be interesting. What would it be if we just did, like, you know, 20 minutes of just reflecting abuse being hurled at you?
Yeah.
You know, it'd strengthen your, like, oh, you don't take the abuse and judgment.
You either strengthen you or destroy you. I don't think there'd be a middle ground here.
Okay, well, thanks, everyone. Did you feel, Greg, did you have anything else?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it was great fun. Thank you.
You're muted, Greg.
Sorry, I don't want to be weird, but I hope your headache gets better, and I would love, your dog is very handsome.
Beautiful dog. Beautiful dog.
I have 2 actually. One's asleep. Mighty.
Okay. Yes, all right. So, Lou, you want to do the debrief?
Sure. Yeah, and I want to start by expressing my an apology to Max. I didn't realize we'd be coming back quite so soon, and I didn't manage the time very well, so I'm sorry that you didn't get as much time to practice as you got a pretty short practice, so I just want to acknowledge that. All right, so we're gonna go around and hear people's reflections on their practice experience. What are you taking away from your practice experience, and what feedback do you have for us about it?
Sam has her hand up.
Yeah, that's right. Bill likes picking people. I was going to just let people say, but go ahead, Brian.
Okay, I just liked represencing that reflecting is not agreeing. It's really nice just to have those words in the toolbox to acknowledge and draw that boundary. So thanks for the reminder.
Okay. Katrina?
I found it really helpful to actually, from the point of view of understanding what other people were going through, which surprised me, to kind of be able to discuss with the other people who were going through it, the process, what they were experiencing, and I just feel like it's just like I'm on another level now. I'm on, you know, it's baby steps, and I'm on the next step, and I still need to practice. So thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, it was challenging. And I couldn't tell when Edwin was being a provocateur and when he was really serious. Very well, very subtly in and out of role of being provocateur. I have a lot, I think a lot of practicing to do.
Okay. Samantha?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, to contrast this today from Tuesday, for me today I found so much more helpful. And I think part of it was because, like, I liked the structure that we had in our small group where we were timing out sort of in the middle of our circle and giving feedback in real time rather than like completing your circle and then giving feedback at the end, because that it's more alive in that moment. So I really appreciated that. And just everybody's comments were just really helpful, and I just feel like I got a lot out of today. So, and I also liked that we decided to just choose topics that we want to facilitate about rather than having a topic pre-selected for us in the training. So I appreciated that too.
Thank you. Anish?
Yeah, a couple of things came out. I mean, sweet reminders of. One of the first thing was that whether I am a listener or I am a facilitator, what's important to know is that I have enough empathy for myself, or I have enough self-care for myself at that moment to hold space for the other person. If I am in distress, or if I'm not really in the moment, or I'm uncomfortable for whatever reason, it becomes just more challenging to listen to somebody or hold space for somebody. So just that awareness is something, a very sweet reminder to be. Second thing is that today it was just nice to go through naturally, having small hiccups and deviations, and to address that. So it was more realistic, and yeah, there was more spaciousness today because of the increased time. So I also celebrate that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Anish. And you know, it's an interesting question for facilitator. If your perception is that someone in the circle doesn't have enough internal resource present to reflect back the speaker, you know, what do you do with that? Do you reflect back for them? Do you let them not skip being a reflector because at that moment they're having too much difficulty? I think that's an interesting question. And I think those are both options.
Yeah, I thank you, Lou, for saying that. I also wanted to say that even if I am the facilitator and I'm holding space, have I prepared myself enough to be at the space? Like for right now, I'm in physical discomfort and I know that I'm having physical pain. So should I still hold the circle, or should I just say, hey guys, I'm not in a space today and I cannot hold the circle. So can we probably do it tomorrow? And just having that awareness and not commit to it because I have said yes and forget myself in the process. So while process is important, it's also important to honor the humanness in me and be really authentic to myself and the other person. That's what
Thank you for clarifying that, because that is different than what I was understanding. Yeah, so making sure that you're ready as a facilitator, yeah, and showing care for yourself. Thank you. Aoife.
Yeah, I think that's a real evolution for the whole world of facilitation. I know in spiritual circles that I've been in that there's this idea that you just show up, you work through it, you know, whatever it is, you just show up, you don't ever, and it's funny because like I do have this I've elaborately described it, this migraine to my poor co-participants. But yeah, would I facilitate with it? You know, maybe sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. And I think that that's the freedom. Maybe that's where we've evolved to now, that there's more compassion. But anyway, within our group, yeah, it was really good. I think the main thing I'm taking from it is that empathy is whatever comes up in challenging ways, that our cultures will have taught us to go to control first, when in fact empathy is always the answer. And I feel like empathy, you know, kind of the analogy that came up was that empathy was the water that you throw on any fire that arises. And then what I find with the empathy, it almost brings like a lightness or a humor. It's like we all become children again, and then we remember, oh wow, yeah, we're doing this empathy game. You know, it's very light and it lightens everything up.
Thank you. Max.
Yeah, I just realized that for the circle to go smoothly, it's less about looking for mistakes as a facilitator, and it's more about reading the room, being present, and you know, paying attention to the details. And it just came to me, and I thought it was an interesting insight. Yeah, and I enjoyed the experience a lot. So thank you.
Thank you. Pavel.
So
If you're speaking, Pavel, we're not hearing you.
the situation.
Maybe try turning your video off. We're not hearing you. We're still not hearing you.
And you
Can
look
you hear me
frozen.
now?
Yeah.
He does look frozen. Okay, so let's go on and we'll see what happens with him. Edwin?
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
I hear
yeah,
him.
we just started hearing you. Actually, maybe everybody turn your video off. Maybe that will help.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
that's much better.
Yes, something that Anish said, as a facilitator, if you're not ready, like you should have like empathy towards yourself and compassion, and say like, I'm not ready, like I cannot do this. So should you continue with facilitating as empathy circle, or should you cancel it, for example? But with me was something different. I was an active listener, and I was quite inadequate. I wasn't in the right state. So from my perspective, I realized that I could have said that I will not reflect because I don't feel in that proper state of mind to do that. And maybe even as I think about now, maybe the facilitator could have intervened and said like, do you want to take this time off and not reflect? Just
okay.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about that, about if if someone refuses to reflect, I would say, you know, as a facilitator, I would make an assessment of, do I think the person is saying that they won't reflect or they can't reflect because they're overwhelmed, or they're too triggered, or they're whatever, they don't have enough internal resource to do it, or are they saying it because they shouldn't think they have to, you know, that it's beneath them to reflect, or they have some, like, an attitude about it. And I would say that if the person doesn't seem to have the internal resource, I would give some empathy for that, and then I would ask them, then I would do the reflection. Or I might say, would you prefer someone else, that the person pick someone else as a reflector right now? And if they said yes, then I'd let someone else be the reflector, and maybe when it came around to them the next time, you know, we'll see if they're ready. If my assessment was that the person kind of has an attitude about reflecting, like they don't think they should have to, then I would want to understand that. I would engage them in dialogue about that, and I would empathize with whatever they're doing, and then I'd but if they say that they shouldn't have to, I would say, well, that's part of being in the circle. And so that they either have to agree that they would do that at some point, or I would say, then you're not really agreeing to be in the circle, you know, to do the circle process.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was my case. I didn't have the inner resources.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you. Edwin.
Yeah, I like that we had everyone could choose their own question, so they kind of added you kind of got to see what was on people's minds, so that added sort of a bit more engagement. Also, the dialing up ahead of time, asking for how much difficulty you wanted, really helped sort of orientate. You kind of knew what to expect, and it kind of just gave a bit of a grounding. So that was a great suggestion from yesterday. So in terms of preparation, I had thought that like having some, like maybe like the first day we could have done everybody gets together with one other person and does like a pre-circle, because that's part of being a facilitator, is you can get some personal support. You meet with fellow facilitator, you have an hour, each person gets half an hour of just listening. Like, how do you feel about doing this training? Or how do you feel about, you can use it for facilitating, that you get sort of a bit of an empathy bath to begin with. So I think that might help with developing resilience. And the other thing was, there's so many specific questions came up. I just loved the issues like you were just describing, you know, what do you do about people having the resources or whatever? And these are all things to be fleshed out, documented, and sort of made, you know, more explicit. So I'm excited about all the stuff that came out. Yeah.
Thank you. Dean.
Yeah. It was really intense, really invigorating, really expressive. Yeah, again, I'm aware I'm a control freak, and I've got to stop trying to control things, and I've got to learn to use empathy rather than resorting to this is the way it should be done. And it's an ongoing process for me.
Thank you. Bill.
Well, I was, you know, we kind of have it this is somewhat open-ended. And as a teacher, I always have curriculum. And I was very impressed by how rich and what a good learning experience I thought it was, by just letting people ask questions and going where they go. I was very enriched and very impressed with my circle members. And then just, you know, thinking about it as reflecting, just asking people, do you know the mechanics? Do you feel more comfortable? People, I think, have varying degrees of comfortable. And have you build somewhat of a support group? I've seen elements of that, but that's what sort of I'm reflecting on at this point to see, did we do a good job? And that's it.
Thanks. Yeah, and for me, today's the practice was really fun and sweet and deep. And we actually took a few minutes at the beginning before we dove into the practice to talk about any questions from Tuesday's session, because people had a chance to some distance from that experience, and so I just asked if people had any questions from that or issues from that, and so we had a small amount of time doing that reflection that I thought was a good thing, and then also the amount of times people called, people calling time out and getting feedback or getting a demonstration, like what would you say in this moment, as opposed to or in addition to what was just said, I think was a good way to see different ways of responding or hearing other people's thinking about how to deal with a particular moment. Yeah, the extended time was great to have, and it's always great to have more time. we could have done more time, and I'll just emphasize again that the Friday facilitator circles are a place for you to bring your questions, concerns, challenges about the facilitation process, so that the kind of practice we were doing today can be continued, not necessarily in the context of that we're doing an empathy circle, but if there's a particular situation or challenge that you are concerned about, it's something that we could practice as part of that time. I think that's it. Bill.
Just to say also, on Friday at, I think it's 12:30 Pacific time is the facilitation group, but we do have circles on at 10 Pacific time on Friday and Saturday. And those that, if you need another kind of, rather than discussing it, you want to practice facilitation, you can be there. And certainly if any of us are there, you certainly can call on us to co-facilitate. So that's another way you can get some direct practice if you wish. That's it.
Edwin.
Yeah, mentioned I just created a facilitator support group. So it sent you a Facebook group. So I'm going to start inviting people who have done the facilitation training to that group for mutual support and organizing and connecting. There's also the Saturday group, Empathy Cafe on for the XR principles. We're going to be ending that, going 3 more meetings, and then it's going to start over again at a different time for more of the Oceania and Europe times. So they're looking for facilitators. We're looking for facilitators. So that's the, the Empathy Circle Cafe facilitation. So you're welcome to any of those if you want to facilitate, even if you're not part of XR. You're welcome to come, because you just kind of hold the space. I just go on a few more next steps. Next Tuesday, for our Facebook group, not the group, but the event for this facilitation training sign up, it's going to be an open cafe about facilitation. So everybody's welcome to that. And then this will be repeated again. I think Bill and Lou wanted in 2 weeks, this will be repeated. So we can kind of spread the word for anyone that wants to take part in the next iteration. Also, I'd like to stay in contact in that this is like module 1, 4 sessions. I'd like to create like 3 or 4 module, 12, 16 sessions, projects on really training. So there's a lot more to go into. And if you're interested in kind of being involved in that, you can connect with me. We'd love to work together on that. And there's all kinds of other next steps too. So I'm probably forgetting some, but I hope you can make it next Tuesday too, to kind of keep the ball rolling. You could maybe facilitate one of the circles there. If you have enough people, you could be a facilitator for one of the breakout rooms there. I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've posted the link to the evaluation form. So we do have an evaluation form we'd like you to fill out. We definitely want your feedback. We're constantly learning and modifying what we do. So hearing from you, what really worked for you, how you would change it to make it more effective for you. We really want to hear your feedback.
Yeah, I know several of the people here are facilitators, and you have a lot of background, and we'd love to work with you to sort of develop the training as well. And I'm going to post that survey link too.
And yeah, Bill.
I just want to say that this is a bit down the road, but I am developing a training program for to teach teachers in schools how to do this. And so I just wanted to give you a heads up. I might need facilitators to do trainings and stuff like that. So, I might call on you. It's down the road, but I just put a bug in your ear. That's it.
Yeah, I'm very interested, Bill, as you know.
Right.
Anything with the school system. So.
And so I think, we're pretty much at the end of our time. And so I think I'd like to finish up by just letting people make any kind of closing remarks that you want to say, how you're feeling, or something that you're grateful for. I'll start by saying I'm feeling grateful for everyone's participation, and for this is kind of similar to what Edwin said at the beginning. I'm moved and feel really supported by having other people who are interested in trying to create, a more empathic world and create more understanding and of self and others. And by learning this practice and trying to help spread it, I'm just very grateful for your participation. And I care about all of you and what wish you really good luck on what you're doing. And this is the first step of a journey. It's only 4 classes, so you obviously can't learn everything about what it means to facilitate a circle in 4 sessions, but hopefully we've given you a few steps on the beginning of that.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I appreciate Edwin, Bill, and Lou, and it's really cool to be a part of this group, like people who all care about the same thing. So thank you so much for your time. I've learned a lot.
And just anyone else, you can do it, popcorn.
Until next time.
Feels better soon.
Sorry, Greg.
Gratitude to everyone. Really good to meet you all and to know that there are people who really care and really want to do something about what's going on in the world. It's given me a lot of sense of hope. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just also feeling really grateful, and so glad I got to interact with all of you, most of you, and I hope we can keep in touch in the group that Edwin created for us. So I'd love to, because I also feel very hopeful. I'm feeling more energized, like, wow, this is a great tool, and we're all trying to get it out there, and I love the support that we can give each other. So thank you.
Yeah, I really feel like I have come full circle with this. A few months ago, I just really felt frustrated that I wanted empathy from somebody and then that drew me to this process. And now I feel like I'm really ready to just neutrally fit into any situation now and facilitate. That need in me has been so met here that I really want to help other people find it too. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Edwin, Lou, and Bill, for the work you're doing. And Anish, I hope you feel better soon. And Aoife, with your migraine
Thanks, Greg.
I'm happy to go next. Thank you so much, Greg, for just seeing me. Thank you. I feel touched. I came here with an open mind. I have about 3 years or 4 years of experience in NVC, in nonviolent communication, and there are parts of it which I really love. There are parts of it which I just can't understand and wrap my head around. So I'm trying to find my own inner balance of creating spaces where empathy is served with balance of process and presence. And that search kind of got me to YouTube, and that's how I found you, Edwin. I'm so amazed at the kind of work that you've done over the last decade or more. I was super inspired to come here. It took me some time to adjust to the space and the process. I'm not someone who likes structures, so it was counterintuitive to me. And now I have so much gratitude for for what I understand empathy as, and for the understanding that I'm taking from these places of how important it is to have boundaries and process to just manage the flow, and the whole facilitation part then just comes beautifully. So that's a real aha for me, and that's my real take back and celebration. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in different places, and I'm hoping that I can come back for the next cohort and the next cohort and the next cohort. And I hope it's not just close to, because we have done this first part. And yeah, thank you each one of you for spending your time and energy to be here. And all the care that you sent me messages, I really receive it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'll go.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Max. Oh,
go first.
Yeah, I just appreciate Lou and Bill putting this together and sort of leading this cohort, and so really appreciate all the work and excellent facilitation. Felt really well grounded, and and also everyone. It's just like, as I was mentioning at the beginning, just to be with people who are working on the same path of building a culture of empathy. It's like, hey, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in the world, trying to create this more empathic world. There's other people that value this, and we're on this path together. And all it is, we got to listen to each other, So it kind of really opens up my spirit. So I feel very sort of moved by that. And I think you can join multiple cohorts, as far as I know. I mean, come back again, because you kind of learn something every time. So yeah, I think that would be, keep that going. Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, also express my deep appreciation, and also feeling with everything that's coming, COVID and authoritarianism and, climate change, whatever, the creeping crud, just my experience of each one in here, and that you share my love of, creating an empathic is stronger than all that crap that I see. And that makes me very hopeful. And thank you.
Yeah, I'm really glad I found the Empathy Circle website and had the opportunity to learn how to do that. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody. I hadn't expected it to be this fun, but it was. And I felt really, really comfortable. It felt like a really safe space, even if we were messing with each other in the last 2 sessions. So thank you, everybody, for making that possible.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to thank everyone for the love they showed for each other, and for the time they've given, and for having ears to hear each other and eyes to see that other people need to be heard too, not just ourselves, which is part of building up this culture of empathy. And I look forward to taking this process on and outward, and seeing you all next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
I want to say first, thank you, Edwin, Bill, and Lou, for doing all of this.
So let's do video off.
And that sense of non-judgment from all of you. How can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, as I was saying, this sense of non-judgment from all of you was really nice. When, let's say, things don't go as they should, we all make mistakes, and to see that no one is judging you and they're accepting you as you are, it is a very nice feeling. And I can see how through this process you can establish a sense of connection with other people that you don't know for such a long period of time. It's like they allow you to step in their private inner world, and often in real life we don't allow the self to happen with the people around us. Days that, for example, I never had a chance to speak with or be in a group with Brian, for example, or Greg. It would have been nice if the group.
You're breaking up, Pavel. Maybe turn your video off.
It's okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're past time. Thanks for everyone's patience with waiting to hear what everyone had to say. And thank you all for being here. Till next time.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Till we meet again.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Everybody. Bye. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody.